Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. I think some friends are going to kind of join along the way. And then we are recording this, which is great. It'll be helpful for friends to refer back to or to view who might be on phone calls right now. So I hope for the Americans, you had an incredible Thanksgiving. And for those of you joining us from other countries, we're really excited that Engine Hire has been able to have such an amazing reach and reach you. So today we're going to talk about corporate backup care. Now, my goal here is to give you the steps that you would take to get ready to be prepared to submit a proposal. So this is not an outline of the systems that you need, right? The people systems to run the business. This is not an outline of the IT that you need to run the business. Engine Hire will share with you at the end of my presentation a little bit about how they can handle the IT, help eliminate some of the people, and even give you help with the sales piece. But what I wanted to leave you with today is really an outline and then answer some questions. So if you are familiar with me, you'll know that I really like to engage. So please use the chat box. And since I'm sharing my screen, it's not super easy for me to see. So Akash and Daniel, if you'll just let me know when we start collecting some questions in there, I will come back and take a look at it. But feel free to ask questions as we go along the way. And again, my slides will be available in the recording. So let's get going, friends. So 6 tips to get us started with corporate backup care. I'm Megan Metzger from Metzger Consulting and Preferred Childcare. I have helped over 200 nanny agencies start, grow, and streamline their businesses, in addition to having an agency of my own for 21 years. So I live and breathe this stuff, guys, and I hope that you're able to learn something today. So we're going to kind of go over why you should be doing this, what the benefits are to doing it. I'm going to give you 6 quick tips that you can use. And then hopefully we'll have some good questions. And then the boys over at Engine Hire will show you how they can make this process as easy as possible. So here we go. What are the benefits to doing this for the agency itself and the caregivers that you work with? Well, I don't know about you, but especially in times of COVID, we found that there were a lot of inconsistencies and it was super difficult to be able to plan appropriately. So offering backup care services will really increase your revenue, the wages that you can pay to caregivers, and it will increase the visibility for your business. So what does this mean? Essentially, you're going to get off that roller coaster. And you know what I mean? We have these great months where we're making tons of money, and then down we go where it's super, super quiet. And it tends to be a bit of a ride as a business owner. So what the backup care, corporate care is going to allow you to do is level that out a little bit more, not experience such high highs and not experience such low lows. It's also going to give us additional funds to work with to give consistency and maybe even increases in hourly wages to our caregivers, which would be amazing. And here's the best part, guys. The visibility means it's free marketing. It is free marketing. So if you partner with an organization and they market your services to all of their employees, whether or not you are utilized through the backup care space, you're making money because you're becoming more visible. You are beating down the know, like, and trust factor since their employer has already raised their hand and said, we know, like, and trust this agency, you should use them. So there are a lot of benefits of why you should be doing this. Here are just a few. I do want to address the myths that also come with it, and I'm going to keep trying to move our faces. Okay. So some people will say, well, it's really, really complicated. I would say if you're already doing on-call babysitting, or if you're already using the Engine Hire platform, you're already doing most of it. So it's not complicated, my friends. Someone may say, well, it's expensive to start it. Well, no, actually it's not. It's a very low investment and a low monetary risk as well. It's a specialty niche. Well, it doesn't have to be a specialty niche. You just have to have specialty systems. So we'll not talk too much today about the systems, but just know that it is not as hard as it seems to be. So hopefully you will see at the end of our presentation why that is. So my first tip when you are looking to start doing this is to do your research. And what I mean by that is you need to do your research for target market businesses and organizations that you want to offer this benefit to. So you want to be looking for the number of locations that organization or business has, the number of employees they have, the average revenue that they bring in, the average salaries that are paid to the employees by the company. And then we really want to discover what the employee childcare barriers are they currently face. And there's quite a few ways that you can do this. A lot of it can be found online, but you definitely want to be doing the research to figure out who you should be targeting. There are some organizations that are going to be incredibly large, and we'll talk about that in a further slide, and they may not be the easiest to meet all of their needs. And then there are others in your own backyard, in your own target market, that you can easily get your foot in the door and start there. So we want to make sure that we've done our research, and here is the key differentiator between someone who just does backup care and someone who truly provides a service. So if we want to be successful at this, we need to figure out what is the problem the employees have around childcare in that business. What is the actual problem? We know the symptom. The symptom is they're not able to come to work. They're tardy, they're absent, they're trying to work from home and kids are running around in the background. But why? What is the actual problem they have? Is it that there's poor quality of care that they can afford that's available to them? Are there not enough options, right? If we could send out a survey to the employees of this organization and get really down to the core to figure out what the problem is, then we can create something really great. So here's where I want you to think right out of the gate. I want you to think differently. This is not just a chance to increase your sales and increase your revenue and help your caregivers make more money. This is a way to really change what companies are doing. This is a way to help that working parent get to work better. So figuring out the problem is going to be key. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to give you an example of a company that we service here in our target market that is a perfect company for backup care. They're a law firm, and they have one location in our target market area, 100 employees. Of those 100 employees, about 30 have children. That's important to note, because when you go to an organization, you think, oh my gosh, 100 employees, I'm going to have to do backup care for 100 people. I'm going to need like 50 nannies. Well, the truth is, if only 30 have children, you then have to do a little bit more research to come up with a more realistic view of this organization. So if I dig a little deeper, I say, okay, well, the average employee makes between $50,000 a year and $200,000 a year. So at $50,000 a year, they probably can't afford us from a nanny standpoint. And at $200,000 a year, do they have a stay-at-home spouse, right? They're probably further along in their career. So you really want to do some critical thinking when you're finding your ideal companies to get an idea exactly of what's going to take to meet their needs. As you really hone into it, you'll actually see that there's less families that need care that you can actually really successfully do. It's not as scary as it seems. And once you have success with one agency or one company, you're going to wash and repeat it every time. So here are the problems that we found in this particular law firm. There were not enough options for the different ages of children. Basically, the kids were either staying after school care or they were coming home. There were different hours that were needed during the day, and most of the team was working remote. So these were the true problems that this law firm faced. And so when we submitted the proposal, we helped them find the solution to these problems. Okay, so let's talk about this. So we have some companies identified. We know we're going to figure out the problems. So what do we do next? Well, tip 2, we leverage our network. And this I want to make sure that you really focus on and don't skip, because if you just send out an email blast, you're going to get lost in the hundreds that are emailing us currently with Cyber Monday, Cyber Week deals, right? We want to leverage our network and we want to stand out. So we want to ask previous and current highly satisfied clients, for an email introduction to the decision makers in their organization. Okay? People want to help you succeed, especially if they've had a good experience with you. For my readers in the room, if you haven't read the book, Raving Fan by Ken Blanchard, make sure you get that one in your Amazon shopping cart, okay? That tells you how you create a raving fan. I'm going to give you a sample email of what you can say. It's kind of long. Take from it what you will. I'm reaching out with a small ask. Whoops, sorry guys. And to share some information about a creative childcare solution we've developed. Okay, I'm telling them what it is. Would you be open to sharing the contact information or connecting me with the director of employee benefits at insert their company name? Okay, so all this is saying here is, here's what we're doing. Here's why it's important. Could you please introduce me? It's all I'm asking for. I'm being transparent about why I'm asking for the connection. And then I'm thanking them for their time. I'd probably follow up with a handwritten note once they make that connection. Sound good? All right. So using your network is so important to get your foot in the door. Again, we go back to having done our research. Here are the types of organizations that we want to be approaching. Locally owned and solo location. Why? Why is that? Well, if they have locations here in North Carolina, California, Hawaii, and Texas, my organization cannot meet all of their needs. Now, if I join a broader network, like what Engine Hire is going to be giving you, then it might be a possibility to meet all of their needs. But when we think about you specifically in your individual agency, you're going to have a much better chance of signing that deal if they're locally owned and have the one location in your target market. So think of law firms, finance companies, real estate agencies, doctors' offices, marketing firms, colleges, and universities. This does not include state-run universities unless you service the entire state, because they will have to offer that benefit across different organizations. Insurance companies and accounting firms, essentially other businesses where your target market is employed, are really where you're going to be focused. Trying to get your foot in the door through a recommendation is going to be best. All of these organizations have high earners in their organization. They're going to have a variety of different pay ranges based on what the individual employee is doing. But we want to ensure the high earners are going to make the investment that the organization has to make worthwhile. Okay? Y'all start asking questions in the chat box. You're going to listen to me for half an hour. Okay? Once we have come up with a list of who we are reaching out to, we are going to reach out and follow up. I will tell you this. This is the hardest part of backup care. This is the slowest thing that you could possibly sell an organization. And the reason why is there's ultimately multiple decision makers. It's a large financial investment. And it's a lot like moving a giant yacht instead of a little dingy fishy boat, right? When a family decides to join, it's mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, or solo mom. It's two key decision makers, typically. In a corporation, we're not just talking about the CEO and the CFO and the COO and the director of human resources and the director of benefits. There may be a whole nother level of investors they have to go through. So the more people that have to approve of this, the longer it's going to take. Do not let that get to you. Instead, use it as a way to stand out and be different. How are we going to do that? We're going to use the triple touch method. So what most people do is they start with a call or an email. And while that definitely is a good idea and still works, I need you to take it a step further. What I'd like to see happen is for you to pick up the phone, make the phone call to the key decision maker who you've hopefully been introduced to. Follow up with an email saying, I left you a voice message on the 28th at this time. Here's what I wish to address. You then are going to send a small gift or handwrite a note. I'm not saying drop $100, but little things go a long way. Maybe it's a book that you read recently you thought they may find interesting. Maybe it is a edible arrangement. They're personally one of my favorite things to give. They're like the fruit that they make into pretty flowers. Maybe it's flowers. Something that's going to get them to acknowledge your existence and pick up the phone. Email them an article of interest. Stop by and visit them. Not my favorite, especially post-pandemic. However, it could work, especially if you've been communicating in some of the other methods. We just want to make sure that we're meeting them and reaching out to them in a variety of different ways, not just depending on that email and phone call and email and phone call, because that is what so many people do. You're not going to get heard through the noise. All right, I think, do we have some questions in the chat, or that's just people introduced?
There are questions, a few questions. Do you want to stop in the middle, Megan, or do you?
I'll go to, yeah, let's go ahead and ask those questions and then we'll do these. Sound good?
Yep. So Beth, do you want to say your question, or I can read it out for you?
Yeah, Beth, say your question, Beth.
Hi, so we've made the decision over the years to not watch sick children. We have a pretty strict policy on it. Does it seem like most of these companies are looking for sick care, or does it seem like most of them are looking for kind of what the law firm mentioned about like outside typical hours, or maybe school being closed?
So in our experience, maybe 15% is sick children.
You said 1-5?
1-5, yep.
Okay.
Most of the care is not sick kids. And we'll talk about this in our next tip. So thank you for the segue. Most of the care is going to come from when school is out, when the partner who provides normal childcare has a doctor's appointment or is out of town. If they have a nanny, when the nanny's out of town or sick themselves, they'll know about, school holidays, things of that nature. Here's the great thing about this. We really don't put a lot of parameters on the organization, and they don't put parameters on their people, their employees, on when they can use the hours. So we're not policing it per se. So they'll use it for a variety of different reasons, and that's fine. They have their bank. We provide the care as long as they have time in the bank. So totally understand the sick kid thing is hard, especially we have a really bad case of the influenza A. Remember the original flu before COVID? That's come around and it's awful. It leaves you on your back for like a week. So I totally understand that. And I would say, don't be fearful, just have a plan in place so that they need to check certain boxes. Do the children exhibit any of these? And if so, care cannot be provided. As long as you're transparent and upfront and honest.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes. Do we have any more, Akash?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
No, yeah. Sharon, do you want to also ask her question out loud, or you wanted us to read it for you?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. For some reason I have a brand new computer and I can't get my picture up, but I am here. I did talk to someone for corporate backup care, and she consistently or asked repeatedly about how soon we would be able to provide backup care for them. So would it be there in 3 hours? Would it be there in 6 hours if they called overnight? She just wanted to know our accessibility for care.
So that comes down to the systems that you have in place and the people that you have in place. What I'll say is this: what Engine Hire shows you can all be done in real time, pretty much instantly. However, it comes down to the people. So for preferred childcare, what that means is we do have an answering service line that's available 24/7. And I say and instead of but, and that person needs some sleep. So they do not answer the phone between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. There's no sense in them trying to find caregivers during those hours either. They're hopefully sleeping. But if a employee puts in a request before 11 p.m. or after 4 a.m., then the answering service will go to work doing what they do best, and that is locating available caregivers. Do you guarantee it? Absolutely not. If it starts to be something that's very successful, can you pay to have caregivers on hold each day for shifts? Absolutely. If you employ them, do you have to pay them? It depends on your state. And no, technically, don't love that personally, just letting you know. That is an option as well. It could be part of them being employed. What I think has worked best for us is we do have the pool of caregivers that are free, and we pay them an X rate, a flat rate. And then if they don't work, they get that. If they do work, the rate goes away and they get their regular hourly rate. So it depends on the people you have in place and the system you have in place, but we could deploy someone as little as 30 minutes.
Wow. Interesting. And do you have someone on staff that does it, or is that done directly through Engine Hire?
Through Engine Hire.
Through Engine Hire. Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's take one more and then we'll go to our next tip.
Okay, so we have another question from Tre. So, Tre, do you want to ask your question, please? I
Or
don't know.
I'll read it out for her then. So Trey was asking, like, how is it an employee benefit? Is the company agreeing to pay a specific number of booking fees every month, and the employee only needs to book if necessary? And are we billing it, invoicing the company for booking fees?
Oh, great question, Trey. So here's where it comes down to being prepared to make the right proposal. And so we'll talk about that in tip 5. I will say there's a variety of different things that you can do. So preferred childcare is different because we look at this as a longevity relationship. We're not here to just sell them a bank of hours 1 year, make a bunch of money, nobody uses it, and then we move on. We're here to create a solution that's going to help their employees long term. And so what that means is the following. We may submit a proposal just to give their employees access. Maybe the company is low on cash, they don't fully understand, or they're not very invested. So all they want, and this is actually what this law firm asked for, funny enough, and I'll show you here in the following steps. They actually asked just for us to waive our registration fees for all of their employees. Said, sure, we can do that. But I went a step further, Trey. I said, what good is that? Free registration is nothing. They need to have a reason to use the service. So I actually gave them 2 proposals, which I'll show you. And in the second, I offer a significant discount, $4 an hour off for every hour that the employees would use. Okay. So you could go even further as you're describing, and the proposal could be, here is a bank of hours, say it's 10 hours per employee. And yes, to answer your question, the organization would pay for the bank of hours, and then through the software, it would keep track of all those hours, tally mark it down, let the organization know when they're getting close, if they need to repay, things of that nature. So again, it comes down to the people and the software. And that's not, we're not going to dive that deep into that today, but to say, yes, you're right. You would build an organization, they would pay you. There are different ways to do it. They could pay you a portion and the family can pay you a portion. That's kind of a pain, to be candid with you. We can do it. Don't love it. You're not in the business of collecting funds. You're in the business of finding great caregivers and putting them in homes. So anything we could do to streamline that would be best. So let me show you these other 2 proposals and see if that helps you, Trey. But yes, your assumption, all of that is correct.
Can I add something really quick to that, Megan? One thing we have seen is there are some companies that are wanting to do this even without a benefit necessarily at all, where your agency just becomes their like preferred childcare partner. So they may not have the resources or the inclination to provide a benefit or or some kind of coverage for their employees, but you can still become their like preferred childcare partner. Sorry to pun on your name, Megan, but become their go-to childcare provider. So their team knows, like, hey, if you ever need backup care, for any reason, here's the agency we recommend. You can contact them directly. We have a system in place. And so, there's a full spectrum you can work on with them, where they provide no benefit at all to their employees necessarily, but you can still work with them, or they might be covering all of it. And yeah, I just thought I'd point that out.
Mhm.
No, that's good. Ultimately, we want them to put some money on the line. Why? Because when people pay money, they utilize the service. That's why we have registration fees. Okay. It's so that they're invested in some way. But yes, being their preferred vendor, the preferred childcare person would be great because you're building that know, like, and trust factor. Okay, I'm going to get back to the presentation. We have 2 more tips and then we'll answer all these questions. These are really, really, really good questions, guys. Thank you. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're focusing on the benefits for both the employer and the employee. They are not buying a product. We do not sell widgets and hair dryers, okay? They're buying a solution to their problem. So as we talked about in the beginning, here is the biggest difference between the successful long-term agencies that do this and the ones that do it fly by night. The difference is, what is the solution to that problem? Okay, so reducing absenteeism, reducing turnover, increasing employee retention, increasing morale. You've heard all of this. If you haven't, here it is. You'll hear it over and over and over again. This is what the employer wants to hear, right? This is why the employer would invest in this. However, does the employer really truly understand how childcare is impacting their employees? And this is where I want to challenge you and help you each grow and understand your role is to be an advocate for these families. They need childcare, and this needs to be solved. So it could be your role to educate the company on how these dots connect. Is the CEO a 35-year-old man who's never had kids? He's going to have no clue what a snow day means and all the absolute craziness that comes when there's a snow day, or schools close suddenly because they have no power because of the ice, which happens down south all the time. Okay, so the problem is more specific and will vary from place to place. I say ice, Floridians, you don't even consider that factor, right? So I say snow, Bostonians, you're like, get out the plows. It's not an issue. So it's going to vary from location to location, city to city. So we are really looking to create a solution that's long-term, and we're going to challenge you to do the same, to be an advocate for these families and help their employers understand. And the only way we can do that is to ask the right questions. So we have identified some companies and we have done our research to make sure they're correct. We've asked for the in. We're not going to go straight to them with a solution because we don't know the true problem. Okay, the goal is to prepare a proposal that meets their individual needs. So that means for us at Preferred, we have a full interview and a needs assessment process, because often the corporation doesn't understand the problem. And if they don't understand the problem, they're not going to buy the solution. Right, guys? So we want them to know what the needs are, and do they get it or do they don't get it? So do the decision makers have insight to the following? Okay, awareness of the barriers employees face. What about ages around children that need care? This was funny when I was talking to a CEO recently. He said, well, if they're 11, they should be able to stay at home by themselves. And I said, that's correct for maybe an hour or two. But if they're wanting to prepare soup, let's not have them turn on the gas grill. If they're needing help with homework, who's going to help them with that, right? It's so much bigger than often that these corporate CEOs understand. And that is a mindset shift I want you to think of now. We're not always talking to moms and dads anymore. We're talking to corporations, and we need to deliver our marketing material in a way that speaks to them. So let's create the proper proposal. Are you ready? What we have found to be best is the following: an outline that would be something like this. About your agency, a little bit about your agency, then consider giving them 2 options: what they asked for and what they need. So in the case of my law firm, they asked for free registration for their employees. And I said, no, that's not enough. I'm going to give you that. But what you need is you need a reason for people to call and to use it on a regular basis. So I also proposed that they receive free membership and a discount of $4 less per hour. You then want to let them know what happens next, allow them to opt in to go ahead and make the selection. Offer collaborative marketing. Tell them you will put together pieces, and Engine Hire will help you do this. Put together marketing pieces to sell this benefit to their employees. Help them with creating relationships. Tell them who their person's going to be to talk to. Give them payment plans. Guys, I add $1,000 to every payment plan I have. $1,000. Boom. That's just for the headache for me. And then we want to summarize it. Again, we're speaking to corporations. You have to get out of the game of speaking to families and start talking in CEO languages. This is what they're used to hearing. Okay. Oops. I will show you guys a sample proposal that we have. And then I definitely want the gentleman here at Engine Hire to show the software that they are offering. We also are going to have quite a few additional questions about this. So let me stop my share so I can see these questions. Wow, we got a few. Guys, why don't you keep calling them out since you are so good to that?
Yeah. Delia had a question. Delia, do you want to say it, or would you prefer if I did?
Oh, if you could, that would be great. I'm just driving, listening.
So what Delia is asking is, from my research, most agencies need to employ the sitters. Is that correct? And if so, how do you determine which model to implement with the corporate care? Is it subsidized 50-50 or paid in full by the employer for X amount of hours? So I think the second part you already covered, but if you want to touch the first part.
Yes, I think employing sitters is definitely the best way to do this. Why? Because it's safety, friends. We are putting all variety of caregivers in and out of a variety of home settings. We want to have control over that. We want to tell those caregivers, please complete the following training manuals. Please do the following assessment. Please report the following ways. And the only way that you can have control over the care that's being given is for them to be your employee, excuse me. Do not let that scare you, okay? Employing is not as scary as it seems. If you have the right technology to back it up and you know the process that you're going through, you're going to be okay. We have been employing caregivers for 19 of our 21 years, and I've employed thousands in that time, thousands. And we've seen a little bit of everything. People can surprise you. However, I'm able to sleep at night better knowing, one, I have the insurance to cover myself, my business, my clients, if anything were to happen. And two, I have training that's always growing, and my team is always changing and learning and growing, and we're sharing those resources in a way that we couldn't if we were not employing. Now, remember, there's a big key difference in the monetary amounts that what a family will pay and a corporation will pay. So you're going to have a gross margin of 50% or more that's going to allow you to pay for additional things that you may not have been able to do previously when you were working direct with families. So please don't let that scare you.
Alejandra also had a quick question. How many nannies would you say you need to fulfill corporate requests?
So that really varies based on, in the beginning of the presentation, we talked about, and I'll pull it back up real quick. We talked about doing the research and figuring out, how many folks they had, and of those folks, how many were actually going to be using us. So for this example, this is a real example. Of the 100, of the 30, we calculated 5 families would truly be using this service on a regular basis. And so we really truly only needed about 6 to 8 more nannies to make sure all their needs were met. But the contract was over 6 figures, okay? Because they have to offer the benefit to everyone. That's the key here, guys. And that's why I tell you solo locations, because they have to offer the benefit to everyone. It can't be, unless they work it out where it's only certain ranks, but that's very rare. Depends on their business. But if they're offering it to everyone, they're offering it to 100 people. So if they're offering it to 100 people, They're paying quite a bit of money for 5 people to actually use it. So I would say ask the right questions, do the research, and you'll know. It kind of depends on, if it's a hospital and we're talking about rotation doctors, that's going to have a much higher need than a law firm that's open from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday. So I can't give you an exact answer on that. If you have a specific company, I can help you do the research and come up with a really good hypothesis on what it would need.
Megan, I was curious, is something like, is it a good sales pitch? Like, hey, your lawyers are billing $100+ per hour. Don't you want to keep them in the office for $25 per hour of childcare? Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, yes and no. So what you have defined is the basic math of here's one of the benefits of offering this.
Mhm.
But it's not solving the problem long term, right? So the problem long term for them may be that they're not able to have their cases go through as quickly as possible if that lawyer actually misses a date in court, right? There's more to it. It's actually worth a lot more than that $100 an hour if we think about having to extend that court process, if we think of everything else that's involved.
Yeah.
So as far as sales pitches, I'm happy to do a webinar on a sales pitch. What I really wanted to get across today was all the different pieces that they have to be thinking about to then make the proposal happen, and to let them know it is not as scary or as cumbersome as you think, right? Even if the organization is large, once we do the research and see how many families are actually going to be utilizing it, we find out we're making a lot of money by creating this solution for them. And to put that perspective for you, with our law firm, even if no one calls us, we still make money because of the money they're investing in the registration and the membership fees. Obviously, we want them to call, and we're willing to do marketing, and we're willing to do lunches and meet and greets and meet with their employees to help them feel more comfortable. We'll do whatever it takes. We want them to call. We want to solve this problem for them. If they're not utilizing us, then the problem's not getting solved, okay? So here's additional topics that we can and will talk about, like timing that sale, those sales pitch, more specifics of following up, how we staff the jobs and manage the performance, how we process that payroll, and how we create a pricing structure that works with corporations. But our big takeaway from today that I want you to grasp is how we're going to find them, the work we're going to do to really understand their need, empower you to find their need, understand it is not as hard as you think it is, and to start thinking like a CEO. Okay. What other questions do we have, Akash?
Carrie wanted to know how much the insurance to employee costs. And that might be a whole nother topic too, but I don't know. If you can give like
It'll depend on your state, and it will depend on your average sales. So the way insurance works, just like car insurance, if you're driving a Lamborghini, it's going to cost you more than if you're driving a 1995 Toyota Corolla. Okay, so the bigger your organization gets, the more the insurance cost. But I'm sure that Adam with JA Knapp would be happy to give you a quote. I will say for us, it's like a full-time salary. It's a lot. And if we did have to call on it once, actually. We called on it once and they covered everything, no questions asked. They made it super, super easy. And we were very thankful, and we put new policies in place because of it. So it was worth it that day, every day before, and every day since. It's one of those things, guys, in most states, you can't drive your cars without car insurance. What if you get into a car accident? It's no different. Running any sort of business is going to have its inherent risk. We are dealing with people's children. Please insure your business.
Awesome. Trey wants to know, like, does the family have like the flexibility of like, hey, what if they want to use their hours for a date night rather than because they needed it in order to stay at work? Is that like a normal acceptable thing from the company?
I don't police it. I mean, I think most organizations wouldn't police it. if they invested, say, $250,000 and no one ever showed up for work more, they would probably wonder why. But the occasional, I think the education and information around it is to encourage them to maybe have a work late and go to dinner with coworkers, perhaps those sorts of things, instead of encouraging a date night. Maybe when they're traveling, to be able to take that flight that leaves a little later instead of the red eye, so they can be ready to go the next day at the presentation that they're doing. I think there's some variables there, and what you're actually asking about is people's integrity. And while I want everyone to use it the way that it's intended, I don't know that that's the case, and I can't police it. That would be a huge headache.
Understood. Mashanda's asking, when will the additional training occur?
That's a great question. Ask Engine Hire. But there's a lot here, guys. There's a lot to unpack. And so what I wanted to leave you with today is just the knowledge to know that it can be done, that we're willing to help you. Engine Hire has something that's going to alleviate a ton of your pain. So I want to make sure you have time for that. Akash can alleviate a ton of your pain and can really help you become financially independent. That is really my goal in this world, is to help as many women, there's a couple of you guys I adore, as many women as possible become financially independent. And this roller coaster that these placements can put us on is not it, guys. Like, you have to have some stability and consistency in your income.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I mean, that is a great question, Mashanda. And so I think we'll coordinate with Megan. If everyone enjoyed this session, which, I can't imagine you didn't, but, I think we can put together, working with Megan, follow-up sessions to cover some more of the topics, however everyone kind of finds it best. So we'll communicate about that. But yeah, I think if everyone can give Megan a virtual or physical round of applause, I think that was really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Megan.
Of course.
And there is one more question from Bridget, where she was asking for if you could share the general margin of what you bill a corporation per childcare per hour versus what you actually pay out to the caregiver or the
More
sitter.
than 50%. More than 50%.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's going to vary, location specific. There's certain caregivers have been harder to find than ever before, but this is not just a babysitter, right? This is someone who is going to kind of provide that family with a sense of peace and stability in an otherwise hectic time. Someone's sick, school's closed, all these things. So show them, Akash, what Engine Hire can do to help with the IT piece. And then, of course, I'm happy to always come back and talk about the people piece.
Got it. Yeah. So what I can do is quickly just give you guys a general overview of how this would work from your perspective and from the companies that you work with perspective. And, for those of you who already use the Engine Hire system, you might have a different perspective on this compared to those of you who don't. So I apologize if I say something you already know. But basically, the way this works is when you partner with one of these companies or local organizations, they will get a dashboard. And for those of you who use the Engine Hire admin dashboard, it looks very similar, where it gets branded to their company and everything, the way it gets branded to your agency. And then they can go ahead and put in all of their employees. And so their employees get dashboards very similar to the client accounts that you have with the clients through Engine Hire. So within these dashboards that the families have, they can, put in information about their children, put in information about their pets, and then they can make booking requests. And the system can keep track of, what their benefit is. Like, some companies like to give people a certain number of booking credits per month or per year. Some companies give them a certain number of hours, give them a certain number of dollars. So the system can keep track of all of that. And then as the employees of these organizations put in booking requests, and you can, this is all kind of customizable, but generally you want to know what date, what time that they want, and any kind of notes, pets, special information, sick kids, special instructions, all of that kind of thing. And so what happens is we connect this corporate dashboard with your agency's dashboard and agency system. So as soon as a corporate client that you're working with, one of their employees makes a request, you're going to get a notification and it's going to appear on your admin side of your dashboard. And for those of you who are already familiar with it, the sort of master calendar, shift job calendar, where you can see bookings as they're coming in. And this can be as easily divided between the bookings that your own sort of private clients and your existing clients are making versus those that your sort of corporate clients are making. And then what's also really cool about this, and again, some of you may already know this using the Engine Hire system, but all of your caregivers will also be in your system, and your caregivers can be categorized based on what type of service they provide. You can tag them with certain key skills like, are they okay with dogs? Do they know how to drive? Do they have infant care experience? And use those kinds of things to auto match them up with families based on the family's requirements. And so basically what happens is the family goes ahead and puts in the request that they want. This will automatically come to you and your team, and it will notify the caregivers in your system that match the family's requirements. So they'll get a text message saying like, hey, there's a family that needs a nanny tomorrow evening from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Here's the details. And so then they will be able to see these available opportunities on their phone and in their dashboard as they come in. So all of your nannies, sitters, caregivers will have a dashboard like this. They can click on any of these jobs and see the details, you know, a little bit of information about the family, a little bit of information about the kids, location, any of that kind of stuff. And then if this is all kind of a good fit for them, they can go ahead and accept the job. And when they accept the job, it notifies the family that, hey, you've been matched with this amazing caregiver. You know, she'll be at your place at this time. Here's a little bit of information about her. And so the family in their dashboard, you know, they can see a little bit of information about who they got matched with, like a little photo and a bio and a phone number or any of that kind of thing. You know, you can also get the caregivers to record little introductory videos of themselves to include as part of that. And, you know, this is all kind of customizable in that way. But what's really kind of cool about this is when it's set up correctly, these corporate employees can go ahead and book without having to contact you directly. The system will contact your caregivers automatically to let them know about it. And then the caregivers can accept the job and it connects them with the family. So really, and then the system keeps track of their benefit usage. So really the family booked, they got matched, everyone got linked together, and you didn't touch anything, which is really cool. It's the way to make money while you sleep. You know? And so, of course, you know, your responsibility is to oversee everything, make sure you have great caregivers joining your system, and keeping track of that. And there's other kind of nice pieces around that where families and caregivers can leave reviews for each other after a job has been completed. So you have that feedback mechanism coming in of kind of who's doing a good job, who's maybe not doing such a good job. Are there any families driving my nannies crazy? You know, just kind of staying on top of all of that. But that's kind of generally how the system side of this can work for you. Does anyone have any questions about that? I see some things popping up here.
Yeah, Alejandra has a question. She's asking if you can add tags.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can add whatever tags you want, customize them however you want. Yeah, totally.
So to the question earlier about how long does it take and the company that was trying to get you to say, we'll have someone there no matter what, you know, again, don't make guarantees. However, Engine Hire literally can have you do it in a split second. If you've got the people in place that are ready to go, they're going to confirm everything for you. It's pretty cool.
We kind of think of it like almost like turning your system into a little bit of like an Uber for this for this company, you know, where it's like their childcare Uber, where their families can go in, request what they need, it sends it out to your network, they can see if it's a good fit for them, and then they get matched together. And so it's really kind of cool in that way. And so yeah, I think as Megan alluded to, what we'll do is we'll send out a recording of this to everybody so you can reference it. We'll also send you some marketing material that you can use like a video and a document that you can use to market this service to your network and to other companies and organizations in your community that you think might be interested in this. So if you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to ask us anytime. And yeah, I mean, I think one last thought that is really important to me about all of this is, I know for Daniel and myself, when we got into childcare, we didn't know that much about the industry. And right in the beginning, I kind of had this feeling like it kind of felt like it was only for rich people, which bothered me a little bit. And so to me, this idea of encouraging local companies to provide a benefit to their teams is a really cool way to, I think, make the childcare more accessible to, frankly, regular people, who still have like regular jobs and regular lives. And having the employers support that is a way to make it accessible to way more people, to help kind of working mothers kind of continue their careers, all of these kind of really great, powerful things. And so, yeah, I think if we all kind of keep that in mind too, it will make this a really great thing for all of our communities. And yeah. So yeah, I don't know, Megan, if you have anything else you'd like to add.
We definitely have a couple minutes for other questions. Oh, I was going to find that proposal. I was going to share that really quickly, but happy to answer any questions that we have. I know it was a lot of information.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll send out the recording, we'll send out some of that marketing material. If everyone enjoyed this, and please, feel free to send us your feedback, send us your questions. If you thought this was useful, if you thought the other topics will be useful, we can organize more of these sessions to cover them in more detail. And yeah, just I think this is a really exciting thing. So
yeah, Akash, I was gonna add in that, because like after each webinar, we send an email with the recording, but there's like a survey when we ask some questions. So again, like as Akash was saying, like tell us what you think about the webinar. If there's something that you would like to change, whatever. I mean, we're giving these webinars on a monthly basis, and we really want to make this something that is useful for you, and the content that we're providing is useful for you. So don't feel afraid to tell us like what you didn't like, or tell us what kind of different topics or what you would like to have training about, like as Nashanda was asking, like let us know what do you want, and we will try to find someone like as amazing as Megan to give the next webinar, and we can provide you with useful content for you. So yeah, like let us know what you want, and we will try to put up other webinars for you.
Here's that proposal really quickly. I'm going to show pieces of it because it actually is a live proposal. So I have the company's name on here, and then some information about us, right? They can read more, go to our website, table of contents. Again, we're working with CEOs, so we want to make sure we're using bullet points, lots of visuals, and then the different packages, the pricing for those packages, right? The next steps that we talked about, let them know what happens next, allow them to select which one they want to choose, tell them how to reach out to you. Super, super simple. Okay. Once you create, the proposal, it's a constantly growing thing, but it should be specific to each company based on their specific needs. So we're not just going to wash and repeat that part, right? I want you guys to think about how can we solve this problem for them long term. But it's great. It's a lot of fun. Once you start doing this, your caregivers are getting those more consistent hours, and they're sticking around longer, which is also nice. And some of them can get placed full time later.
awesome. That looked really nice, Megan. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here. And yeah, please, again, we'll be in touch, but also please reach out with any of your questions. And yeah, hope everyone has a really great day. Take care
Bye,
of yourself.
guys.